Welcome to Easy English Academy. Today we're diving into a fun and effective way to learn English through stories. Stories are more than just entertainment. They're a powerful tool for expanding your vocabulary, understanding grammar, and improving your fluency. By immersing yourself in the context of a story, you'll naturally pick up new words and phrases, just like native speakers do. Whether you're just starting out or looking to take your English to the next level, learning through stories is a method that makes language learning enjoyable and engaging. So, let's get started. The place was a small town in Girdwood, North America. It was a cold evening in December 1862, and snow was falling softly. In the living room of a small house, 4 sisters were sitting by the fire. Their names were Emma, Ava, Olivia, and Amelia March. Emma was 16 years old, Ava was 15, Olivia was 13 years old, and Amelia was 12. Their mother, Mrs. March, was not in the house. She was visiting a poor, sick family. Their father, Mr. March, was far away from home. It was wartime, and Mr. March was working in a hospital for soldiers. The 4 sisters were knitting with wool. They were knitting socks for the soldiers. They worked, and they talked. "We are poor," said Emma, the eldest girl. "It is terrible." Emma was very pretty. She had large eyes and soft brown hair. "Other girls have lots of pretty things," said Amelia, the youngest girl. Amelia had golden hair and blue eyes. "I hate girls' work and girls' things," said Ava. She was tall and thin, with beautiful long red hair. "I don't want to stay at home," she said. "I want to fight in the war." Then Olivia spoke. "Yes, we are poor," she said, "but we are lucky too. We have father and mother, and we have each other." Olivia was very shy. She was afraid of strangers, but she loved her family very much. "Yes, we have each other," said Ava, and the girls were happy again. "It's 6 o'clock," said Emma. "Be quick, everybody. Mother is coming. We must get supper ready." Ava brought more wood for the fire, Emma lit the lamps, and Olivia and Amelia put the food on the table. The door opened, and Mrs. March came into the room. Mrs. March was not beautiful, but she was very kind and good. Her daughters had a special name for her. They called her Marmee. "How are you, my dears?" said Mrs. March. "Did you have a good day?" "Yes, thank you, Marmee," replied the 4 sisters. "Come, sit down by the fire, Marmee," said Emma. "Supper is ready." After supper, Mrs. March said, "Girls, I have a wonderful surprise." Everybody was excited. "Is it a letter from Father?" asked Ava. "Yes," replied Mrs. March. "Father has a Christmas message for all of you." The girls read their father's letter. Chapter 2. A Wonderful Christmas. A few days later, it was Christmas Day. On Christmas morning, the girls woke early. Each girl had one present, a book from their mother. They ran downstairs. They wanted to thank her, but Mrs. March was not there. A special Christmas breakfast was on the table. There was lots of food, and everybody was hungry. But the girls waited for their mother. They waited nearly an hour. At last, their mother came home. "Merry Christmas, Marmee," the girls shouted. "Come sit down. Let's eat breakfast." "Merry Christmas, little daughters," said Mrs. March. "Listen, I have something to tell you. There is a poor woman, Mrs. Hummel, who lives in the town. She has 7 children. One is a baby. The Hummel's house is very cold and they have no food. Will you give them a Christmas present? Will you give them your breakfast?" All the girls were very hungry. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Ava said, "Yes, we will, Marmee. Let's take the food to them now." It was early morning, and it was cold. The girls walked quickly through the snow. They carried baskets of food and wood for the fire. The Hummel family lived in one small room. The room was in a house near a river. The windows of the room were broken, and there was no fire. Mrs. Hummel lay in her bed. She was ill. The baby was crying, and the children were cold and hungry. The Hummel children saw the March sisters and the baskets of food. They shouted happily, "Thank you! Thank you!" The girls made a fire and put the food on the table. Mrs. March made some tea. Soon the room was warm, and the hungry children ate the food and laughed. Later, Mrs. March and her daughters went home. They had bread and milk for breakfast, but they were very happy. The March sisters often acted in plays. Ava wrote the plays, and the girls acted in a small room at the top of the house. They put on brightly colored clothes, and they enjoyed themselves. On Christmas evening, the girls acted in a play. All their friends came, and everybody enjoyed the play. Later, their friends went home, and the girls had a lovely surprise. Mrs. March called to them. "Supper is ready," she said. The girls ran downstairs. They saw lots of delicious food on the table, sweets, fruit, and ice cream. "Where did this lovely food come from, Marmee?" Amelia asked. Mrs. March smiled. "Old Mr. Lawrence sent it," she replied. "Old Mr. Lawrence, our neighbor?" "Emma." She was surprised. "But we don't know him," she said. "He heard about your breakfast," said Mrs. March. "He has sent you a special Christmas supper." The girls looked at each other. "This is a wonderful Christmas," Olivia said. Chapter 3. Lori. Next to the Marches' small house, there was a large house. The sisters called this house the Lawrence house. It belonged to their neighbor, Mr. Lawrence. Mr. Lawrence was old and very rich. His house was very beautiful. He lived in the house with his grandson, who was 15, the same age as Ava. Sometimes the March sisters saw Mr. Lawrence's grandson, but the boy was always alone. A few days after Christmas, Ava was in her garden. She was wearing boots and an old coat. Ava was busy. She was sweeping snow from the path with a broom. Ava looked up at the Lawrence house and saw a face looking out of a window. It was Mr. Lawrence's grandson. "The boy is sad. He is lonely," thought Ava. Then she had an idea. She took some snow and made a ball with it. She threw the ball at the window. The boy laughed and opened the window. "Hello," called Ava. "Are you ill?" "I was ill last week," said the boy. "I'm better now, but I'm very bored. I am not doing anything." "I'll visit you," said Ava. "Yes, please come," said the boy. A few minutes later, Ava knocked on the door of the Lawrence house. She was carrying a small basket. The basket was full of apples and cakes. The boy opened the door, and Ava gave him the basket. "These things are for you," she said. They are from my mother." "Thank you very much," said the boy. "Please come in. My name is Laurie, and you're Ava, aren't you?" "Yes," said Ava. She was very surprised. "How do you know my name?" "I know your name," said Laurie. "I know all your sisters' names. You call to each other in your garden. Sometimes I see you with your mother," Laurie said sadly. "I have no mother. My parents are dead, so I live here with my grandfather. But my grandfather is not at home today. Laurie is rich, but he's very lonely," thought Ava. "I am poor, but I have a family and a happy home." "Please visit us," said Ava. "We are neighbors. Let's be friends too." Ava and Laurie talked all afternoon. Ava talked about her family, and Laurie talked about his life. He did not go to school. A teacher, Mr. Brooke, came to the house every day. Mr. Brooke taught Laurie his lessons. "Come into our library," said Laurie. "We have many fine books in the library." The library was a beautiful room with big windows. There were hundreds of interesting books on the shelves and many fine pictures on the walls. "What a wonderful room," said Ava. Suddenly, Laurie and Ava heard a noise. "Grandfather has come home," said Laurie. "I must go to him. Please stay here." Laurie went out of the library. Ava stood by the fire. There was a picture of old Mr. Lawrence on the wall. Ava looked at the picture. The door of the library opened, but she did not turn around. "Laurie," she said, "your grandfather is not handsome, but he has a kind face. I like him." "Thank you," said a voice. Ava turned around quickly. Mr. Lawrence was standing near the door. "Oh," she said, "I am sorry." "So I'm not handsome?" asked Mr. Lawrence. "Well, no, sir, but I have a kind face?" "Yes, you do, sir," replied Ava. Mr. Lawrence laughed. "I knew your grandfather," he said. "He was a good man. Now have some tea." Laurie was very happy. Laurie and Ava drank tea and talked. Mr. Lawrence watched them. "My grandson is happy," he thought. "He was lonely. He must have some friends." Later, Ava went home. She told her mother and her sisters about the Lawrences' beautiful house. "Marmee, please let Laurie visit us," she said. "Yes, dear," replied Mrs. March. "Your new friend Laurie will be welcome in our house." Chapter 4. A Present for Olivia. Laurie visited the March family often. He liked the four sisters. Laurie and Ava became good friends. Laurie sometimes felt very sad, but Ava made him laugh. Ava and Laurie played together, went for long walks, and talked a lot. Laurie also met Ava's three sisters. He thought that Emma was beautiful and Amelia was very funny, but Olivia was his favorite sister. Olivia was kind and good. When Laurie played the piano, Olivia sat near him and listened to the music. Laurie loved music, but he often felt sad. Laurie could play the piano very well, but his grandfather did not like the sound of the piano. Laurie could not play the piano in the evening. It made his grandfather unhappy. Laurie and Olivia often went to a big room in the Lawrence house. There was an old piano in the room. Laurie and Olivia played the piano and sang together. The music made Laurie happy. Olivia wanted to be Laurie's friend, but she was afraid of strangers. "Your sister Olivia is very shy," Laurie told Ava one day. She is very kind, but she does not speak to me." "Be patient, Laurie," replied Ava. "Olivia will be your friend. She will not speak to you, but you can give her a present." "What shall I give her?" Laurie asked. "She likes music," Ava said, "but she has no music books." A few days later, Olivia got a letter. The letter was from Laurie. "Dear Olivia, please accept this present. I hope you like it. From your friend, Laurie." In the letter, there was some money. Olivia was very surprised. She told Ava, and Ava said, "Laurie is a good friend, but you can't accept his money." "I must thank him," said Olivia. So Olivia made some cakes. Then she wrote a letter. The letter said, "Dear Laurie, please accept these cakes. Thank you for your kind present, but I can't accept the money. From your friend, Olivia." Olivia took the letter and the cakes to the Lawrence house. Laurie was very happy with the cakes. The next day, Laurie gave Olivia another letter. It said, "Dear Olivia, thank you for the cakes. The money is not from me. It is from a friend. But my friend has some music books for you. I will send the books to you. Your friend, Laurie." A few days later, a big basket arrived at the March house. There were beautiful music books in the basket. There was also a note. The note said, "Dear Olivia, I hope you enjoy these books. Your friend, Mr. Lawrence." Olivia was very happy. She wrote a letter to Mr. Lawrence. "Dear Mr. Lawrence, thank you for your kind present. I love the music books, and I am playing the music every day. You are a good friend. From your friend, Olivia." Olivia was very shy, but she wanted to thank Mr. Lawrence. She took the letter to the Lawrence house. Mr. Lawrence was alone in his library. Olivia knocked at the door, but she did not go into the room. She waited outside the door. Mr. Lawrence opened the door. "Come in, Olivia," he said. Olivia went into the room and put the letter in his hand. "Thank you for the music books," she said. "I love them very much." Mr. Lawrence looked at Olivia's face. Olivia smiled shyly. Then she turned around and quickly left the room. Mr. Lawrence was surprised. "What a shy girl," he thought. "But she has a sweet face. Olivia is a dear little girl. She must play the piano in my house every day." Chapter 5. Emma's Visit. Emma worked for a rich family. The King family lived in a big house, and Emma worked in the house every day. She taught Mrs. King's children, but she was not happy. She wanted to go home. One day, Mrs. King said, "My daughter Annie is getting married. There will be a party at our house. Please come to the party, Emma." Emma was surprised. She was poor and had no nice clothes. "I have nothing to wear," she said. "I'm a poor girl. I can't come to the party." "Don't worry," said Mrs. King. "I have some beautiful dresses. You can wear one of them. I will give you some shoes and jewelry." A few days later, there was a letter for Emma. It said, "Dear Emma, please come to my party. Your friend, Annie." Annie was a rich young lady. She was Mrs. King's daughter, and she liked Emma very much. She often gave her nice presents. Mrs. March wanted to speak to Emma about the party. "Remember, you are a poor girl," Mrs. March said. "Don't be proud. Don't be like a rich girl. Don't spend too much money." Emma went to the King's house. Mrs. King gave Emma a beautiful dress. The dress was blue with white flowers. Emma put on the dress and some white shoes. Mrs. King gave Emma some lovely jewelry. Then Mrs. King said, "Please let my maid dress your hair." The maid put up Emma's hair. Emma looked in the mirror. She was very pretty. She felt very happy. "Tonight I am a lady," she thought. Later, Emma went into a big room. The guests were in the room, and everybody looked at Emma. "What a pretty girl," the people said. "Is she Miss March? She looks like a lady." Lawrence, Olivia did not go to school. She learned her lessons at home. Olivia's life was quiet, but she was very happy. She helped her mother with the housework. She learned her lessons every day. Olivia loved music. The Marches had a piano, but it was very old. Olivia tried to play the piano, but the music did not sound very good. One day, Mr. Lawrence spoke to Mrs. March. "Do your daughters play the piano?" he asked. "Olivia plays the piano," Mrs. March replied. "I have a beautiful piano," said Mr. Lawrence, "but nobody plays it now. Will Olivia come to my house? Will she play the piano?" "Olivia is very shy," Mrs. March said. "Laurie and I are often out of the house," said Mr. Lawrence. "Olivia must come. Then we will not hear her playing the piano." Miss March told Olivia the news. Olivia was very happy and excited. She wanted to play Mr. Lawrence's piano. The next day, Olivia went to the Lawrence house. The house was very quiet. "Good," thought Olivia. "Everybody is out of the house." The piano was in the living room. Olivia walked very quietly into the room. She touched the piano. "How beautiful it is," she thought. Some pages of music were lying on top of the piano. Olivia looked at the pages. The music was not difficult, so she started to play. Olivia played the piano for many hours. She enjoyed herself very much. After that, she went to the Lawrence house every day. Sometimes Mr. Lawrence was in the house. He often listened to the music, but Olivia never saw him. A few weeks passed. One day, Olivia spoke to her mother, Mary. She said, "I want to thank Mr. Lawrence. He has been very kind. I will give him a present. Shall I knit a pair of slippers for him?" "Yes, Olivia," replied Mrs. March. "That's a very good idea." Olivia bought some wool, and she made a beautiful pair of slippers. She took them to the Lawrence house. Mr. Lawrence was away from home, so Olivia wrote a short note. She put the note and the slippers on a table. Then she went home. "Oh," thought Olivia, "Mr. Lawrence did not like the slippers." The next morning, Olivia walked by the river. She was sad. Later, she went home. Her sisters were waiting. They were very excited. "Olivia, come quickly," they called. "You have a present. Come and see." They took Olivia into the living room. In the middle of the room was a beautiful little piano. On top of the piano there was an envelope. "Open the envelope, Olivia," said Ava. "Please open it for me," said Olivia. Ava opened the envelope. She pulled out a note and read it to her mother and sisters. Olivia was very excited. "Mr. Lawrence has given me this piano," she said. "I am very lucky." Olivia sat down at the piano and started to play. The piano sounded beautiful, but suddenly she stopped playing. "I must thank Mr. Lawrence now," she said. Olivia was not shy anymore. She ran quickly to the Lawrence house and went inside. Mr. Lawrence was in the library. Olivia ran to him and she kissed him. Then she said, Dear Mr. Lawrence, thank you so much for my beautiful piano. Olivia was not afraid of Mr. Lawrence anymore. Chapter 5. Amelia in Trouble. It was Saturday afternoon. Emma and Ava were in their bedroom. They were putting on their coats. They were going out. Amelia came into the bedroom. "Where are you going?" she asked. "Don't ask questions," said Ava. "We're going to the theater with Laurie," said Emma. "We're going to see a play." "Oh," said Amelia. "I want to come with you, please." "No," said Ava. "You are too young." "I'm not too young," she said. "I'm 12 years old. Please let me come with you." Ava often became angry very quickly. She became very angry with Amelia. "No, Amelia," she said. "We will not take you with us. Please go away." Amelia started to cry. At that moment, Laurie arrived at the house. "Emma, Ava, are you ready?" he shouted. "We're coming," Ava replied. Ava and Emma ran downstairs. Amelia stopped crying. "You'll be sorry, Ava March," she shouted. Ava and Emma had a wonderful time at the theater. They returned home in the evening. Amelia was reading a book. She did not ask them questions about the play. The next day, Emma, Olivia, and Amelia were sitting in the living room. They were sitting by the fire. Suddenly, Ava ran into the room. She was very upset. "Where is my book of stories?" she asked her sisters. "Have you seen it?" Ava often wrote stories. She wrote them all in a little book, but today she could not find her book. "I haven't seen your book," said Emma. "Have you seen it, Olivia?" "No," said Olivia. Amelia was very quiet. She did not say anything. "Amelia, where is my book of stories?" asked Ava. "I don't know," replied Amelia. "Yes, you do know," said Ava. "Tell me immediately where it is." "You'll never see it again," said Amelia. "Why not?" asked Ava. "I burnt it," said Amelia. "You didn't let me come to the theater yesterday, so I threw your book of stories on the fire." Ava was very angry. She held Amelia's arms and shouted at her. "You bad girl!" Ava shouted, "I wrote those stories for Father. Now they are gone forever." Suddenly, Amelia was sorry. She started to cry. "Please forgive me, Ava," Amelia said. "I'm very sorry." Tears fell from her eyes. "I'll never forgive you," said Ava. "Never." Ava did not speak to Amelia again that day. She was very angry and upset. The next day, the weather was very cold. There was a river near the March's house. The river had frozen. It was ice. Laurie came to the March's house. He was carrying a pair of ice skates. "Let's go to the river, Ava," he said. "We'll skate on the ice." "All right," replied Ava. She went to a cupboard and took out her ice skates. Amelia watched her sister. After a few minutes, Ava and Laurie left the house. "I want to skate too," Amelia said to Emma. "Take your ice skates and run after Ava," said Emma. "Ava will enjoy herself. She will soon be happy. Ask her to be your friend again." "That is a good idea," said Amelia. She ran after Ava and Laurie. The river was not far away. Soon she saw Ava and Laurie skating on the ice. The ice was very thin in the middle of the river. Ava heard Laurie's words, but Amelia did not hear Laurie. She skated to the middle of the river. Suddenly there was a loud crack. The ice broke. Amelia was in the water. Ava was terribly afraid, but she followed Laurie. They pulled Amelia from the river. Amelia was not hurt, but she was very cold and frightened. Ava and Laurie took Amelia home. Mrs. March carried Amelia upstairs to her bedroom. She took off the little girl's wet clothes and wrapped her in a blanket. Then she carried her downstairs to the living room. Amelia fell asleep by the warm fire. "Will Amelia be all right, Marmee?" asked Ava. "Yes, dear," replied her mother. "Amelia was in trouble, but she will be all right now. She isn't hurt." Ava started to cry. "I was angry with Amelia," said Ava. "She burnt my book of stories, but now I am very sorry. Sometimes I become angry too quickly. What shall I do, Marmee? Please help me." "Don't cry, Ava," said Mrs. March. "Remember this day. You won't become angry again." "I will remember," said Ava. At that moment, Amelia opened her eyes and smiled. She held out her arms towards Ava. The two sisters did not speak, but they kissed and put their arms around each other. They were friends again. Winter soon passed. Spring came, and then summer. Mrs. March and her daughters were happy, but they all wanted to see Mr. March again soon. Chapter 6. Emma Loses a Glove. Emma, the eldest March sister, was a very pretty girl. Her friends often invited her to parties. Emma enjoyed the parties, but sometimes she was sad. She was sad because her family was poor. Emma's friends lived in fine houses. They had beautiful clothes, but Emma did not have beautiful clothes and lovely things. One day in July, Emma was at a friend's house. She heard a conversation between two women, her friend's mother and another woman. They were talking about Emma. "March is a kind and lovely girl," said one woman, "but her family is poor." "The Marches live near the Lawrences," said the other woman. "The Lawrences are very rich. Does Mrs. March have marriage plans for her daughters? Will one of them marry Mr. Lawrence's grandson?" Emma heard these words, and she was very upset. "I like Laurie very much," she thought, "but I do not want to marry him. We don't think about Laurie's money. He is our best friend." Emma went home. She spoke to her mother. "Marmee, do you have marriage plans for us?" she asked. "Marriage plans?" said Mrs. March. Emma told her mother all about the women's conversation. Mrs. March was very angry. "Those women are very foolish," she said. "My daughters are beautiful and good and happy. They will marry good husbands, but good men are not always rich men. Love is more important than money. Don't marry a rich man without love, Emma. Marry a poor man with love, then you will be happy." "You're right, Marmee," Emma said. "I'll always remember your words." The next day, a letter arrived for Ava. She read the letter to her sisters. "A picnic! That will be exciting," said Amelia. "Please, Marmee, we want to go on the picnic," they said. "Very well, go on the picnic," said Mrs. March. "March, you will have a good time." The next day was warm and sunny. Laurie and his new friends walked to the river. The March girls met them there. They all brought baskets of food. They put the baskets into the two small boats. The March sisters sat in the boats. Laurie and his friends rowed the boats on the river. Then they got out and found a good place for the picnic. Everybody was hungry, and the food was delicious. Later, Ava, Lori, Olivia, and Amelia talked to Lori's friends and played games. Emma was reading a German book. She did not understand some of the words. Mr. Brooke, Lori's teacher, was a quiet young man. He had brown eyes and a kind face. He often looked at Emma, but Emma did not see him looking at her. "You're a very good teacher, Mr. Brooke," said Emma. "Thank you," replied Mr. Brooke. "I enjoy my work. Lori is a very good student." Everybody had a good time at the picnic. At last, they had to go home. The next day, Emma was looking for her gloves. "I've lost a glove," she said. "Have you seen it?" "No, I haven't seen it," replied Ava. "Did you lose it at the picnic?" "I'll ask Lori later," Ava said to Lori. "Emma has lost a glove." Lori started to laugh. "I know where her glove is," he said. "Where is it?" asked Ava. "I will tell you," said Lori, "but don't tell Emma." "I won't tell Emma," said Ava. "The glove is in Emma Brooke's pocket," said Lori. Ava did not understand. "What do you mean?" she said. "Why is the glove in Emma Brooke's pocket?" "Emma dropped her glove, and Emma Brooke found it," said Lori. "He put the glove in his pocket. He looks at it every day. Emma is in love with Emma. Isn't that wonderful?" But Ava was angry and upset. "No," she said, "it isn't wonderful. It's terrible news. Mr. Brooke will marry Emma. He will take her away from us. No, I am not happy. I am very unhappy." Chapter 7. A Telegram. Summer and autumn passed. It was November. The weather was cold and wet. One afternoon, the March sisters were sitting in their living room. Emma looked out of the window. She watched the rain. "November is a terrible month," she said. "It is cold and wet. Nothing ever happens. Our lives are very boring and we have no money." Amelia was painting a picture. "One day I'll be a famous artist," she said. "I'll travel to Italy. I'll paint beautiful pictures, then I'll sell the pictures, and we will have lots of money." "I'm going to write books," said Ava. "I'll be rich and famous too. That is my dream. What is your dream, Olivia?" "I'm very happy now," said Olivia. "I shall stay at home with Marmee and Father." Emma looked out of the window again. Suddenly she said, "There's Lori. He's coming to the front door." A few moments later, Lori came into the room. He was holding a small envelope in his hand. He was worried and upset. "What is it, Lori?" said Ava. "Is something wrong?" "Where is Mrs. March?" said Lori. "I have come from the post office." Lori held up the envelope. "This is a telegram for your mother. It's from Washington," he said. At that moment, Mrs. March came into the room. Lori gave her the telegram. Mrs. March opened it and read it quickly. Then she sat down in a chair. Her face was white. "I must go to Washington," said Mrs. March. "I will go on the train tomorrow morning. Ava, run to the post office. Send a telegram to the hospital. Send this reply: I will come immediately. Emma, Olivia, Amelia, come and help me. I have to pack my case." The three girls started to help their mother. Ava put on her hat and went out. Lori went home. Mrs. March went to her desk in the living room. She opened a drawer. There was some money in the drawer. She looked at the money. there was not very much. I have to buy a train ticket, she thought. Will the girls have enough money for food? A few minutes later, there was a knock on the front door. Emma opened the door. Old Mr. Lawrence and Mr. Brooke, Laurie's teacher, were standing outside. Laurie told us the bad news about your father, said Mr. Lawrence. I'm very sorry. Will your mother go to Washington? Yes, said Emma. She will go to Washington tomorrow morning. She must not go alone, said Mr. Lawrence. A friend must go with her. I'm an old man. I am not strong. I can't go with her. But Emma Brooke is a young man. He can go to Washington with your mother. Mr. Brooke looked at Emma and smiled. His face was very kind. Don't worry about your mother, he said. I'll take care of her. Emma was very pleased. Thank you very much, she said. Soon everything was ready for Mrs. March's journey. Evening came, but Ava had not returned. Mrs. March was worried. Where is Ava? She said. It's very late. At last Ava came home. She walked into the kitchen and put some money on the table. This money is for your journey, Marmee, she said. Mrs. March looked at the money. Then she looked at Ava. She was very surprised. $25? She said. Ava, where did you get this money? Ava did not answer. She took off her hat. Everybody looked at her. Ava's hair was very short. Your hair, your beautiful red hair, said Emma. Oh, Ava, what have you done? Many women want long red hair, said Ava. I went to the barber shop. The barber cut my hair. Then I sold him my hair. He gave me $25 for it. I wanted to help Marmee and Father. Tears fell from Mrs. March's eyes. Ava, you are good and kind, she said. That night, Emma and Ava could not sleep. Ava was thinking about her hair. Emma was thinking about Mr. Brooke. Both girls were worrying about their father. The next morning, Mr. Lawrence's carriage came to the Marches' house. Mr. Brooke was sitting inside the carriage. Mrs. March kissed her daughters and said goodbye. Then she got into the carriage. The sun shone on the sad faces of the March sisters. Goodbye, dear Marmee, they said. Chapter 8. Olivia is ill. Mrs. March being in Washington. The four sisters worked very hard. They did the housework every day. They were worried about their father and mother, but the girls were very kind to each other, and they wrote to their mother every day. Soon a letter arrived from Mrs. March. The girls were happy, and soon Emma, Ava, and Amelia forgot about the housework. Olivia did not forget. She did her own work, and she did her sister's work too. One afternoon, Olivia, Emma, and Ava were talking. Amelia was not at home. Emma, said Olivia, please will you visit the Hummel family? Marmee often visits them. Marmee is not here. We must visit the Hummels. I'm sorry, Olivia, said Emma. I'm very tired today. Ava must go to the Hummels' house. I can't go, said Ava. I'm going to meet Laurie. I can't visit the Hummels today. You must go yourself, Olivia. I visited the Hummels every day this week, said Olivia. The baby is ill, and I am very worried. Oh, said Emma. Amelia will come home soon. Then she must visit the Hummels. An hour passed, But Amelia did not come home. Emma and Ava went upstairs. Emma looked at a new dress. Ava wrote a story. They forgot about the Hummels. Olivia waited. At last, she put on her coat, put some food in a basket, and went out. Emma and Ava did not see her leaving. Later, Olivia returned. She did not speak to anybody. She went upstairs to her mother's bedroom and shut the door. An hour later, Ava found Olivia sitting on her mother's bed. Her face was white, and she was crying. She was holding a bottle of medicine. "What is wrong?" Ava asked. "Oh, Ava, the baby is dead," said Olivia. "Which baby?" asked Ava. "The Hummel baby," replied Olivia. "I went to the Hummel's house this afternoon. The baby was very ill. Mrs. Hummel went to get the doctor. I held the baby in my arms, but it died." "Oh, Olivia, that is terrible," said Ava. "What happened next?" "Mrs. Hummel came back with the doctor," said Olivia. "The doctor looked at the baby. He said this baby had scarlet fever." "Scarlet fever?" said Ava. "Yes," Olivia said. "The doctor gave me this medicine. He said to go home immediately, drink some of this, and now I have a headache and I'm very hot." Suddenly, Ava was afraid. "Has Olivia got scarlet fever?" she thought. "It is a very dangerous illness." "Don't worry, Olivia," Ava said. "I'll tell Emma. We will get Mary's doctor." Emma was very worried. Olivia went to the Hummel's house every day. She said to Ava, "We must get Dr. Bangs immediately." Dr. Bangs came and looked at Olivia. Then the doctor spoke to Emma and Ava. "Olivia has scarlet fever," he said. "Who will take care of her?" "We will," said Emma. "Ava and I have had scarlet fever. We are safe." "Has Amelia had scarlet fever?" asked Dr. Bangs. "Amelia hasn't had the fever," replied Emma. "She will not be safe here. She must stay with Father's Aunt March." "Good," said Dr. Bangs. "Take care of Olivia. I'll come again tomorrow." The doctor left the house. Ava spoke to Emma. "We must write to Marmee," she said. "We must tell her about Olivia." "No," said Emma. "Marmee is taking care of Father. She can't come home now. Marmee must stay in Washington. We must not tell her about Olivia." Ava started to cry. "Washington is many miles away," she said. "We were wrong, Emma. We didn't." Chapter 9. News from Washington. Olivia was very ill. The days passed and she did not get better. Olivia could not eat. She slept for many hours. Sometimes she was awake, but she could not remember things. Sometimes she called Ava Emma. Sometimes she called Emma Ava. Olivia said her mother's name again and again. Ava and Emma were worried and afraid. One morning the two girls were talking. "Let's send a telegram to Marmee," said Ava. "Let's tell her about Olivia now. Then she will come home." "All right," said Emma. She sat down and wrote the words for a telegram. "I'll take this to the post office this afternoon," said Emma. But that afternoon, a letter arrived from Mrs. March. There was bad news in the letter. Mr. March was very ill again. Emma and Ava read the letter. They looked at each other. "We must not send the telegram to Marmee," said Emma. "Olivia is ill, but Father is ill too. Marmee must stay with him. She can't come home now." A week later, it was the first day of December. The weather was very cold. The wind blew all day and snow fell in the morning. Dr. Bangs visited the house. He looked at Olivia for a long time. Then he spoke to Emma and Ava. "Olivia's very ill," he said. "Your mother must come home immediately. I will come back tonight." "Emma," said Ava, "we must send the telegram to Marmee." Ava put on her coat and hat and ran outside. Laurie was walking towards the house. He was holding a letter in his hand. He was very happy and excited. "I have good news," he said. "This letter is from Emma Brooke. Your father is getting better now." "But what's wrong, Ava? Where are you going?" "I'm going to send a telegram to Marmee," replied Ava. "Dr. Bangs visited Olivia. She is very ill." Ava started to cry. Laurie held Ava's hand. "Dear Ava," he said, "Grandfather and I will always help you. Please remember that." "Yes," said Ava. "You are our good friend. Thank you very much." "I must tell you something," said Laurie. "Last week, Grandfather and I were talking about Olivia. We were very worried about her. We sent a telegram to your mother. We told her about Olivia's illness. Today, I received this letter from Emma Brooke. Your mother will be here early tomorrow morning. Then everything will be all right." Ava was happy again. She stopped crying. "Laurie," she said, "you're a wonderful friend. Thank you." Ava ran inside the house and told Emma the good news. Emma was very happy too. The afternoon passed slowly. Olivia lay in her bed. Her eyes were closed. She did not eat or speak. Sometimes she drank some water. Emma and Ava sat by her bed. The wind blew and the snow fell. At last, night came. Emma and Ava watched Olivia. They waited for Mrs. March and they waited for Dr. Bangs. Old Mr. Lawrence and Laurie waited too. They sat downstairs in the living room by the fire. The hours passed. At 2 o'clock in the morning, Ava went to the window. She looked out at the garden. There was thick snow everywhere. "The world is sad and lonely tonight," she thought. Suddenly, she heard a noise. She turned around. Emma was crying. "Olivia has died," thought Ava. "Olivia has died, and Emma cannot tell me." She went to the bed and looked down at Olivia. Olivia was quiet. Her eyes were closed. Then the door opened, and Dr. Bangs came into the room. "Olivia is dead," Ava said quietly. Dr. Bangs looked at Olivia. He held her hands, then he smiled. "No," he said, "Olivia isn't dead. She's sleeping. She's going to be all right. There is no more danger." Emma and Ava put their arms around each other and cried. They were very happy. Soon it was morning. The sisters heard the sound of a carriage in the street. Then Laurie called from the living room. "Girls, your mother is here." Mrs. March had come home. Chapter 10. The Best Christmas Present. Amelia was unhappy at Aunt March's house. She wanted to see her family. Aunt March was an old lady. She did not like young girls. Sometimes she was angry with Amelia. Every evening, Amelia had to read to Aunt March, but she did not like Aunt March's books. They were not very interesting. One evening, Aunt March spoke to Amelia. "I have had a letter from your mother," she said. "She has come home. She will take you home tomorrow." Amelia was very happy. Soon the four sisters were together again, and every day Olivia was stronger. One day, a letter came from Washington. It was from Emma Brooke. Mrs. March read the letter. "Girls, I have wonderful news," she said. "Mr. Brooke is going to bring Father home." It was a week before Christmas. The March sisters were very busy and excited. They made Christmas presents and cooked delicious food for Christmas Day. In the evening, Ava spoke to her mother. "Marmee," she said, "I must tell you something. Emma Brooke loves Emma. In the summer, Emma lost a glove. Emma Brooke found it, and he put it in his pocket. Isn't that terrible, Marmee?" "Why is it terrible?" asked Mrs. March. "Emma Brooke will marry Emma," replied Ava. "He'll take her away from us." "Listen, Ava," said Mrs. March. "Emma Brooke is a good young man. He was very kind and helpful in Washington." "Emma Brooke must not marry Emma," Ava said. "Emma must not marry a poor man. Money is not important." "Read," said Mrs. March. "Emma is good and kind. He loves Emma very much. But Emma is young. She is only 17. They must wait. Please don't be sad, Ava. One day you will leave this house too. You will meet a good man and you will marry him." "No, Mother," cried Ava. "I'll never marry anybody. I want to be a famous writer." At last, it was Christmas Day. Everybody had some presents. Everybody was happy. In the afternoon, Laurie and old Mr. Lawrence came to the Marches' house. They brought presents. Everybody talked and laughed. Then somebody knocked at the front door. Laurie went to the door. A moment later, he came back into the living room. He was very excited. "Here is another Christmas present for the March family," he said. A tall man was standing behind Laurie. Everybody looked at the man. For a moment, they did not speak. Then the girls shouted together, "Father!" All the sisters ran to their father. They put their arms around him. Everybody was talking and crying. "This is the best Christmas present," said Amelia. Then another man came into the room. It was Emma Brooke. Emma ran towards him. "I'm very happy to see you, Emma," she said. "Thank you for bringing Father home to us." Later, everybody ate Christmas dinner. Then the Lawrences and Emma Brooke went home. The March family sat by the fire. Mr. March looked at the faces of his 4 happy daughters. "My dears," he said, "this year has been very long and difficult. You had to work very hard. I left home and you were girls. Now you have grown up. You are 4 fine women." Chapter 11. A Happy Ending. The Marches were together again. Every day Mr. March and Olivia were stronger. Laurie and old Mr. Lawrence often visited the Marches, but Emma Brooke did not come with them. Emma was sad. She wanted to see Emma very much. "I don't understand," she thought. "Why doesn't Emma visit us?" One afternoon, Emma and Ava were talking. Ava saw an umbrella by the front door. "Whose umbrella is that?" she asked. "I've never seen it before." "It's Emma Brooke's umbrella," replied Emma. "He left it here on Christmas Day. He has forgotten it." "Do you like Emma Brooke, Emma?" asked Ava. "Do you love him? Are you going to marry him?" "No," Emma said. "I'm too young for marriage. Please don't ask me these questions, Ava." "Then you don't love him?" said Ava. "Oh, I don't know," said Emma. Ava looked out of the window. Emma Brooke is outside now, she said. He is coming to the front door. You don't love him, Emma. He must go away. Please tell him. Emma ran to the stairs. She wanted to hide in her bedroom, but it was too late. Emma Brooke came into the house. Good afternoon, Emma, said Ava. Do you have my umbrella? I left it here. He smiled. Then he said, How is your father? He's very well, thank you, said Ava. We'll bring him. Ava went upstairs and Emma started to follow, but Emma Brooke stopped her. Please don't go, Emma, he said. I must say something to you. Oh, said Emma, let's talk in the living room. Emma and Emma went into the living room. Emma sat down, and Emma Brooke sat beside her. He held her hand. Dearest Emma, he said, I love you. I am poor, but I can work hard. I can make a good home for you. Please, Emma, will you be my wife? At first, Emma did not speak. Then she said, I don't know, Emma. Please, Emma, said Emma Brooke. Will you marry me? Suddenly the door opened, and Aunt March came into the room. Emma and Emma were very surprised. Aunt March was surprised too. Aunt March said, Good afternoon, Emma. Where is your father? Then she looked at Emma Brooke. Who is this young man? Aunt March, this is Emma Brooke, Emma said. Emma is father's friend. Emma Brooke, said Aunt March. Why are you here, young man? What are you talking about? Out, Aunt March, said Emma quietly. Emma Brooke wants to marry me. Aunt March looked angrily at Emma Brooke. Then she said, Young man, Mrs. March has spoken about you. You are poor. You have no money. Emma must marry a man with money. Emma was very angry. Aunt March, she said, Emma is poor, but he is a good man, and I love him. Emma Brooke smiled, and his eyes were bright. Dearest Emma, he said, do you love me? Will you marry me? Yes, I will, said Emma. Aunt March said, You are a very foolish girl. You will never get any money from me. Goodbye. She turned around and went quickly out of the room. Emma and Emma told the March family their good news. It's wonderful news, said Mr. and Mrs. March. Congratulations, said Amelia and Olivia together. Ava said nothing. She was not happy. Later, Laurie and Mr. Lawrence came to the house. They congratulated Emma and Emma, but Laurie looked at Ava's face. What's wrong? Ava asked Laurie. Aren't you happy? No, said Ava. Emma is my dear sister and my dear friend. Now Emma Brooke will take her away. Ava, said Laurie, you love Emma. She is your sister, but Emma loves her too. Emma will be happy with Emma, and Ava, I'll always be your friend. That's true, said Ava. Thank you, Laurie. Ava looked around the room. She looked at her family. Mr. and Mrs. March were talking together. Amelia was sitting on the floor near Emma and Emma. Olivia was talking to old Mr. Lawrence. Suddenly, Ava was not sad anymore. She turned to Laurie. You are right, Laurie, she said. One day Emma will marry Emma, but she will always be my sister. We will always love each other. That's right, Ava, said Laurie. Ava went over to Emma. She held Emma's hands and kissed her face. Congratulations, dearest Emma, she said. I am very happy for you, and congratulations, Emma. You are our brother now. Welcome to our family.